send it today?
No, I sent it.
The one at the end of October?
It would have been October's report, yeah, so.
Okay, it would have been October's report, yeah. I must have gotten it. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me.
Really nothing to report. I mean,
That's
it's pretty slow down there now. I'm waiting for Ted to pull that commercial float out to repair it. Other than that, it's been not a whole lot of activity as far as visitors and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Would that have been after Halloween that you would have sent the report?
I just can't hear you.
Would it have been after Halloween that you would have sent the report?
Yeah.
The 31st?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've gotten the other two, which I appreciate.
I'll check my email. Maybe I have it. I just sent it to Kathy.
Okay. And anything else going on?
No, waiting. Somebody's going to take me up in a helicopter to take an aerial photo of the Warren field so I can get a better picture of what's out there.
Okay. And who is that fellow?
I don't know his name. He lives out on West Alma Road. Probably the only resident. Probably the only resident out in the helicopter.
That'll be helpful. Okay, great. Anything else?
Nope.
Harbor Master wise? Alrighty, so our data is in the draft report for what we were asked to do, right, Emily? You mind taking it from here?
No, not at all. So you'll see that there's kind of a summary sheet, which is on the first page. So you had featured or inventoried 17 private marinas, and then between public marinas and public launch ramps, you had inventoried 20. So there's two different legal size charts. One is for private marinas, and then the second is for the public marinas and launch ramps. And they're separated by marina and launch ramp. So with this information, once you guys have a chance to digest it a bit, I think the next step would be trying to figure out where Wiscasset, especially with the pier expansion, could fit within these other marinas in order to figure out possible, fees for seasonal versus overnight rates, mooring, and if you want to maintain the rates you have or change them so that we can then estimate potential revenue to put into your report to the select board.
Because you are so familiar with this, you have an idea what Wiscasset should charge?
So it was a little overwhelming in terms of the range. If you were planning on having cruise ships, you could charge $1,000 a day, as Bar Harbor does. There's others that are somewhat kind of on both sides of the bell curve. You have some that charge pretty extensive, rates fairly extensive, and then others that are pretty nominal. So it's more just looking at what you would think. I haven't digested this fully. Some of it, I just got the information yesterday. So this kind of came together at the last minute this afternoon. So I don't have that answer for you at the moment, but certainly can dive into it further.
Comments? Questions? I would think we would be leaning more towards public.
I think so too.
Like paying closer attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any that were public and private, like combined, or not really?
Kind of like a quasi?
I guess.
Not really. There were some private that charged kind of minimal, but they also had minimal amenities. Let's see. Like I think it was Riverside that you would go out to. Yeah, Newcastle, that their only moorings. They have a pump out on the river, electricity, and a library. There's no charge for one night, and then a weekly fee is just $50. So that one is, well, it's technically private, kind of functions more as a public marina in the sense of expenditures.
So I guess should we maybe open up, take a week or two to go over this and then come back together and go to next steps? What are you thinking?
That's a lot of information.
Should we,
I got some, Emily, some people, I called the harbor master office, they answered anything I asked, they didn't answer for me. City of Bath and the City of Cascade, I left 3 calls, nobody even called back. I mean, just no courtesy at all. It was horrible. But,
they
you
give the
know,
same
it happens.
message the rest
You
of us
know,
are in, no
And
doubt.
maybe they're not in 5 days a week or.
Or they
whatever.
only
Maybe
work
it's just a-
seasonal or something, you know.
Right.
I don't know.
But I had, like, Bucksport was very helpful, and he had a lot of information.
Bucksport, I talked to the fella up there too, I got poking around
Yeah.
online and he called me back and I thought that was, I don't know, I'd like to go visit. Can we go
Yeah.
can we do that?
Take a field, it's a field inspection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
take a
field
field
trip.
trip.
Still check.
I really would like to do that and just take a look
Yeah.
at what they're, because I think they're looking at expanding again.
And the information that we're trying to glean from this is what value or what price we should charge for the slips. Is there anything else that we're trying to get out of this?
At this point, I don't know.
Well, as you review kind of what your price point would be, or you're looking at these marinas to see where Wiscasset could fall, don't just look at the price point, but also consider what amenities Wiscasset offers versus the other public marinas. Some may
Right.
have more,
Right.
you know, you're gonna be out having showers, electric and water hookup, so keep that in mind as you review these prices to see where you could fit to give a reasonable estimate. And then I think the other thing to consider is also, if you're gonna be charging, say by the foot, for a seasonal rate, try and see if you can estimate, you know, how many seasonal slips you may have to figure out that potential revenue for the season. And then also, if you have any ideas, and I don't know if you might know, Larry, about, you know, size of boats. Is it mostly like 20 to 24 foot boats that are in the harbor visiting? Is it anyone larger?
You know, they're all different sizes. I mean, I would say the average would probably be 30, 35. But the bigger ones
Okay,
and smaller ones that come in. But
okay.
That will be for next meeting, provide a price for slips.
Say it again.
Will we want to try to provide that next meeting, a price for slips?
I think so, because didn't Dennis want that by like the beginning? I thought it was November, but it could be the beginning of December at this point.
Yeah, I think that's okay. So as far as the report to the select board, I've started, I don't have a draft that I want to share just yet, since this is a public meeting and it's a very rough draft, but taking what was discussed at the last meeting in terms of content for the report, so project history, you know, in terms of how you got the design for Gartley and Dorsey with a Shore and Harbor grant, what the design proposes in terms of slip expansion, electric and water expansion, and then the harbor master building improvements. And then referencing these charts to show, you know, the research that you put into it. So all of that information I filled out, so really it's kind of that next level of analysis in terms of expenditures, which you just got, and then revenues and potential estimated revenue in terms of the expansion and what you think you could get in terms of once you add those slips, how much money you think you could bring in a season.
And that's to get a grant.
It's not to get a grant, it's to present to the select board to ask to go for the grant. Because you're gonna have a matching requirement.
Who goes for the grant? Who physically does that?
Maybe we can assist you, Lincoln County Planning can assist with the grant application.
Does the Waterfront Committee do that, or does the select board, the
It
town
would
manager?
probably be, I mean, I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I'm assuming that it would probably be the town of Wiscasset submitting the grant, you know, as the applicant. We would act as almost like an agent to help you prepare the grant application. But the town would have to make some match requirements. So if we were to go, say, for the SHIP grant with DOT, there's a 50% match requirement. So you're looking about a town having to cough up about $175,000 of the $350,000 project. So the first step is to go into the select board, and what Dennis has asked for is a pretty thorough report that analyzes, you know, kind of almost a cost benefit analysis of, is this gonna be a long-term expenditure to the town that they're gonna have to put a lot of financing into, or is it something that can be relatively self-sufficient and kind of pay for itself with this expansion process? So once you have that select board, you present the report to them and kind of get next steps. I'm assuming that they'll probably want to have almost like a pre-grant submission meeting with DOT to get more specifics about, is this project eligible? What else might they be looking for in terms of supplemental material aside from Will Gartley and Dorsey's plans and application materials. So I think that's kind of in terms of the process. I don't think you're at a point where you're going to be submitting tomorrow, but this report will get you that next step in terms of the meeting with the select board.
You mentioned expansion about 3 or 4 times. What's the significance of that in this report?
So what we're doing is a cost benefit analysis. Right now you have a certain number of slips. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the plan that Gartley and Dorsey prepared as part of your Shore and Harbor grant is to add more slips and do a dock extension. So what we're looking to do is what would be the added revenue with that expansion in terms of, so not looking at expenses and revenue today.
We're looking at 14 slips right now. That's the plan proposed by Gartley.
How many do you have in the water right now, or at least this summer?
We don't have any slips. We've got tie-ups
Okay.
for, what,
3.
daily boaters.
We got 3 moorings that we can rent out, and we have that, you can probably put, 4 or 5, depending on the length, on the wreck pier.
Okay. But we don't have slips per se at this point.
Okay, but you're expanding your pier, the ability to use your pier to bring money in by allowing for more boats to come into the harbor, correct? In terms of recreational.
So when you use the term expansion, are you saying that those are the 14 slips that we propose?
Yes, so when I say pier expansion, I'm talking about what you have today versus what the Gartley and Dorsey
Okay,
plan
I
is.
thought you were saying that the 14 is what we've got, and then we're looking forward to.
No, sorry, I
This is the
apologize for any
expansion.
confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the plan this
you.
is presenting the plan that Gartley and Dorsey prepared for you that they submitted in July, and doing a cost benefit analysis on that to see how much, a reasonable estimate in terms of revenue that you could bring in versus what the added maintenance and operational costs may be for that, to see if it's something that, like I said, is gonna pay for itself over time, or if it's gonna be, I think the select board is a little concerned, is it something that's gonna be kind of a burden in a way?
Right, gotcha. Thank you.
Guys have any more questions for Emily or at this point? You want to take some time to read things over now or while she's here? I know I've just seen the phone from me. So what would be the next step, Emily?
I think once you give me kind of your idea in terms of what you would charge, and that includes, are you going to be charging to, for, the electric hookup, or is it going to be an amenity that's offered free of charge? So even thinking to that level of detail, if you look at like Bucksport, Castine, New Harbor, there's all, it spans pages in terms of these charts as to what they charge. They have a nightly rate, a daily rate, seasonal, weekly, depending on the size of the boat, the rate changes. So really diving into that, and you can provide me what you're thinking in terms of those details. And then I can kind of run with that and probably have more questions for you at the next meeting as well.
So I kind of think we ought to go home, read through everything, figure out our questions, and because I know some of what I read, that, different sites and things like that, depended on and it might depend on the size of the boat, whether they wanted 30 amp or 50 amp or 100 amp, and those were different fees. Does that have to do with the length of a boat or just its electrical requirements? Don?
It's the electrical requirements for the boat. Majority of 30 amp, you run into water 50 amps. 100 amp units, you wouldn't even want to consider here. So just a 30 and 50 amp.
Okay.
You could get away with 30 because they have boats that have 50 amp service generally have a two-way plug. It's a big tap, so that they need two 30 amps coming into the boat in
Okay.
order to get that 50 amp requirement. So you can really get away with just 30 amp,
Okay.
depending upon the expense.
That's good to know. So I think we should look over stuff like that and figure out what we think would be best for Wiscasset, at least starting out, and then come back and get those notes together. What do you think? Want to try to meet again and,
Do
I don't know.
do you think some of these, like down at Brown's, are there boats that you think stay there all winter? That they rent a place and keep the boat there for the whole winter?
That I don't know the answer to. There wasn't, that one I pulled from the website because I called and I didn't get a response back from anyone. I don't know if they require, the boats get pulled out of the water and then it's just, the season is, say, May through September or October. So there are some pulls, this obviously is as extensive as we could get, but there are still some gaps because some of it was just internet research that I couldn't get a response from. So I don't know. I mean, there was some, even public municipalities that they offered winter storage. I don't think that's going to be here. So I didn't include it in the chart because I didn't think it was necessary to include those fees for winter storage.
You think there's boats here in town that stay here all winter?
There's a couple that stay in the harbor all winter.
You're sitting up there now.
I can see
All
them.
winter?
Yeah.
Well, we had George, who used to stay here by the yacht club, and now he's over next to him.
Right.
That's the only one I know that's,
There's a
that
Great
the
Banks
little
trawler
cabin?
out there. There's a
The-
34
This is
footer.
one of the few places that doesn't have ice in the winter.
Mhm.
For example, in Bath, ice comes down in Kennebec and will damage any boat in the area. But here, because we had the Providence here all winter,
Right.
there was no ice at all.
Right.
So that's one of the big features here. So I think you could allow a boat to stay at a slip all winter long.
Looks like there's another one that's
Hold on
there.
for a
Sorry?
second, Frank. I'm sorry, Doug?
You asked about Brown's, their booth pay probably has 8 or 10 marinas that have boats in year round.
Wow.
Liveaboards as well as just storage.
So, when might we want to reconvene?
Any night's fine with me.
Okay. You want to try to do it before Thanksgiving? Like next Tuesday?
We have to bring a turkey.
No. You want to try? So we can get this going? Because otherwise it's December 1st.
Yep.
The
Do you have to
following
notice
week.
it, Susan?
Huh?
Do you have to notice the meetings? Like, is that, if it's a week from?
Yeah, I thought they
yesterday?
just needed like 48 hours or something like
Okay.
that.
I don't know, I know for like planning board, they have to have meeting notices, I think it's 10 days ahead of time.
Hi, Glenn.
sorry, I'm late.
It's okay. Like to tell, you want to try for Tuesday, at 5, if I can find us a room?
Sounds good.
That sound good to you guys? Okay, we come back and discuss just this, and look over the expenses.
When, next Tuesday?
Yeah,
What's that date?
the 23rd. And I'll double check with Kathy. I'll shoot for 5, okay? 5 o'clock? Okay, good. I think Dennis wanted that. Well, we should try for December.
They look good.
Okay. Hmm. Good. Emily, thank you very much. There's a lot to go over here. I'm sure your email will light up.
That's fine, happy to answer questions.
Sorry it took me so long for the information, but I was trying to get everything I could. I tried.
So, this is a silly question. Are we expecting the revenue from what we can charge for slips to offset the whole waterfront? Are we? Is that-
I don't, no,
I'm just wondering.
I think Dennis Moore just wants to know, like, if they're gonna invest $175,000 in terms of match, is it 10 years, 15 years?
Till they make
60 years until that kind of comes back? Is there any benefit? Or
Okay.
is it gonna be barely any revenue coming in, but it's gonna add $10,000 a year in terms of maintenance expenses? So I don't think it has to be an exact science, but at least some information. I think Dennis had mentioned to all of you in one meeting that the select board does like data, and kind of a detailed proposal request. And so that's essentially what we're putting together.
Okay.
I remember discussing that with Dennis that night, and we came up with a figure just for comparison, and it was a 5-year payback, which he thought was great.
Yeah.
Of course, we can refine that now when we get our information from all this data.
Because I think you had brought numbers from one
So
or
I
two
think,
marinas.
I think it will be the objective is to have it paying its way and then some. And that's why we proposed it.
I wonder if we'll have a separate account just for the slips. What I'm getting at is we've got this payback for the slips of 5 years. That's quite a tie down there. We're gonna have to definitely have maintenance on those slips. Will we get the slips paid off, or we need maintenance, or where did that money come from? How is this all gonna happen? You know, that's what I'm getting at.
You can still watch all that in your regular budget stuff, as long as you have it line item.
Would need, like, whoever would include that, right, every year for maintenance and
Well, it would have to be in the waterfront.
budget,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, versus having the slips paid off in 5 years, like Dick was saying, and how much maintenance we're gonna need in the 5 years. Are we gonna make enough from the rental of the slips to pay back the output of 175,000 and take care of the maintenance too? Or, you know, I don't know.
We can determine that. I think, David, when we talked to Ted about the costs for maintenance that he has now, that'll give us a pretty good idea of what these additional slips will cost.
Right.
Well, and I think that it should be included in this, for the waterfront, the maintenance, like when he fixes a float or whatnot. 'Cause that would be a similar
Don't have a-
maintenance cost, right?
John had a comment.
Oh, sorry, John.
You've got a line item in there now for repairs and maintenance
Right,
on the existing facilities.
right.
All you do is expand that. But you also have to remember that with brand new docks, you're probably buying 6 or 7 years before you have to put a dime into them at all.
Right.
So what a lot of people will do on the waterfront is that they will develop a capital fund. And as part of that rental fees, $1
Right.
every
3
rental is
cents,
up at
5
$5
cents,
every rental.
right.
Goes into that, so it's an accumulated fund, and you just tell the select board to keep your fingers off it, that money has to be accrued.
Right.
And that's for repairs down the line.
Future repairs and maintenance.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they might already do.
Okay. Good. All right, anything else on item 3 at the moment? So just so you know, on this, it's like this whole season from May till October, it was 2 fiscal years, so it was the end of last fiscal year and then the beginning of this one. So if you add the 2 together, we get it for a whole season, even though it's not, it's 2 separate years. Okay. A lot to go over and think about. we move on for now? Okay, meeting notes from October 21st. Do you have any questions or comments if you did for doing them? What's the status of the kayak rack at this point? Right where it was last month? It hasn't gone any further.
Oh. Wasn't it requested that we go in front of the selectmen too?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was on the agenda.
That's fine.
I don't think we've done it. But at this point, we probably wouldn't put it on until spring anyway.
Mm-hmm. So I think it was just me, Dick, and Frank here last meeting. See any corrections or changes to minutes? Anything different? Anything you want to change? I think we need to include who's present. So I know Larry was here, Wayne was here, right, and Dennis. And us three. I don't think Don came to our last meeting. You weren't here last meeting, no. Okay. So I'm gonna add those. Okay. All right. You make a motion to approve the minutes? Right? Okay, I'll second it. We'll approve. Great. Thank you. I can send those to Kathy. So, under other business, we've got a lot to do this winter that needs to, I think we need to meet more often. I realize we're meeting next Tuesday, but I'm thinking of maybe going to what do you think about going to every other week to keep working on this, the peer policy review, and then there's the mooring permits, which we want to help out with in the application, because so that can get out in a timely fashion. What do you guys think? Try to do every other week if we can find a space and. Sound okay? Is one night of the week any better than another? Or stick with Thursdays? I know this room is free a lot on Thursdays. What do you think?
Thursday.
You want to do that? So maybe if we can meet on Tuesday, if that works, and then skip next Thursday because it's a holiday, the following Thursday? Okay, isn't that December 2nd? Okay?
Yeah, Thursday's hard for me, but that's just one person, I'm not gonna hold everybody out.
Hard for me too, but
Yeah,
we can do it.
we can do it, we can
We
do
can do it,
it.
but we've got to dive back into those peer policies
Yeah.
and get
Yeah,
working.
more
on them.
permit, get that stuff done.
Yeah. So, I don't know much about this, but there's a online app for moorings, for applying for your mooring and paying for it. It's called Online Mooring or something, and it makes life a lot more simple once it's all working.
What's the fee? I don't.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
Don?
$6.
Per.
$6 per application. And it comes, you can do it two ways. You can add it on to the mooring fee or just take it out of the mooring fee.
Actually, I remember that, yep. Yep, seems reasonable.
Save a lot of postage.
Yep.
Well, and it keeps, I
Like some
think,
people, I don't know if everybody won't be able to do it though, because some people won't have access to computers or whatnot.
In looking into that, I asked the same question, and the harbor masters that I spoke with said that they charge them a $10 application fee if they don't do it themselves. So they get the $6 plus the $10. It's a way of saying we're not, we do it. And I think most of the people on it probably do it. The other nice thing about it is that it does all of your accounting work while you're lost. all the spreadsheets that, you know, you're generating manually, all that is done on that. You can also, with that, you can also put out a mooring plan of who's there, where they're at, and they use Google Earth in order to focus in on that and correct it.
Oh, wow.
You basically have to just go around to the existing mooring and you punch in a GPS fix on it, and then you send that whole chip to them. They produce the map for you and send it back to you, so that you'll know exactly who's at each mooring, whatever the mooring number is. If you click on that on the chart on your screen, it'll blow up into a picture of the guy's boat if you want, give all his information, the owner's name, the length of the boat, all that sort of thing. It's quite a bit of detail to it.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of service is relatively inexpensive when you consider the time that it takes somebody in your office to keep track of all that information.
I can have Callie research that. I did forward her that email, and she was gonna look into it, so that sounds like it'd be right up her alley.
Yeah. And there are, I think I found 16 or 18, at least 16 or 18 harbors in Maine that use it.
Yeah.
They started out in Nantucket with 2,200 moorings.
Wow.
So it shows the capacity. And they said they go all the way down to towns that have 50 or 60 moorings. It's perfect.
I think it's worth pursuing. So if, what would be helpful?
I'll talk to Callie about that tomorrow. But I don't know who gives the final blessing if that's what we're gonna do or not.
I think,
My call?
Yeah. I'm trying to do all the moorings.
I'll,
for $6 or basically no cost to the town.
Right.
I tack it right on the top.
Yeah, you may have a $60 charge,
I'll
$7 charge.
I'll look into that and talk to Callie and sounds like I'll probably get it going.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, really, I thought.
Yeah.
So how will that work with our current map and where the
Figure it out.
moorings are? So you have to wait till people,
No, this would preclude that, I think, because you're now making your own map. You
okay.
could use that as a guidance if you wanted to, but you'd have to use it just as fixes, that's all.
So we kind of make our current map like not matter?
Yeah, it would be a good reference point, perhaps.
Is that map that we have, is that date on that correct, 2008?
Yes,
So it's pretty old then.
yeah, but the bottom hasn't changed. And it never was put into effect either, so there were never any moorings put in as that chart indicates. It was never utilized at all.
So it sounds like if we do this online more, I still gotta go out, put hands on every more and enter those GPS coordinates into that.
Somebody,
system.
yeah, they have they've got something that you put in your laptop that, just for plug-in, that'll ping what the coordinates are for that. That's the way I understood it anyways. It'll ping what the coordinates are, and then you send that whole shit back to them, and they download it all into Google Earth.
Sounds like fun.
So how does that happen? Do you have to go out, physically go out there?
Physically go to every mooring. You just drive by and you go, bingo, and you say, this
Is the boat
39.
still in?
This is, I'm sorry?
Is our boat still in? I mean, can,
Well, we can put it, it goes in for days.
Difficult time of year to do it though, because most of the moorings out there, the walls have been removed.
well, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah. You got
Oh,
lots
they take the
of,
balls off in the way?
yeah, you got lots of buoys hanging there with chains down, put the chain on the bottom so it doesn't rust during the winter. There's just a rope going down the chain, it might be hard to identify exactly which ones it is. But that doesn't mean that you can't do the whole system. You
Yeah.
start the system, you
Yeah.
add to that system once we get up and running with it.
All right, I'll research the system, but it sounds like he said, no brainer.
Chief, are you approving the mooring applications now?
I don't think there's any improvement, it's just automatic, somebody fills it out and they get one, right? I mean,
Okay, but I mean, you're in charge of that process?
yes.
Okay. Let's assume we've got our slips in. Would you also be in charge of renting those slips out?
I would assume.
Now,
By state statute, all waterfront rentals and moorings fall under the auspices of the harbor master.
Okay. Just as a question for the future, would you offer to the fishermen first, because we're supposed to be, or the select board is supposed to be encouraging working waterfront?
I
Or,
guess my question back when sorry, my back closed. My question back when we first started talking about this was, it's this, what's the total project, $300-something thousand?
yeah,
350.
And if you rent those slips to 14 fishermen, so you got a $300-something thousand project, and that's just 14 fishermen. I don't see how that's gonna work. I mean, so if you're putting those slips in to generate money, I think you'd wanna rent them, but I don't know,
yes.
but I don't know how I don't know if you'd wanna rent them long-term to one person. I mean, I don't think, we don't have the demand right now for, you know, to rent 14 slips a day.
Yeah, we do, based on the information I got talking with the Commodore. Because I asked him if there was any interest in this, back in August, I think. And I showed him the study from Gartley with the layout of the slips. And he mentioned it to his people in the yacht club, and there were 28 people that were interested in renting a seasonal slip. So I do think the demand is there. I'm just wondering, how would you apportion some to fishermen and the rest to?
Well, I guess, I know there's some fishermen that want some. I've heard fishermen talk.
Yeah, Jody said he would rent one in a minute.
Yeah, a few of them would. So, but again, if you're renting them,
Still get the same cost.
if you're renting them to one person, I mean, is it a pretty steep rental?
Well, let's say it's $1,000 a season.
That'll be more than that.
Yeah, should be. For Robin Hood's 3,000, I
Yeah.
think we can see at least.
If somewhere.
Whatever we come up with will be the price that the fishermen pay and any other rental pays. Right? I mean, we're not gonna change the price, would we?
How do you, I guess, how do you do it fair? I mean, if you've got 28 people that want 14 slips, you're gonna do like a, like, put their names in a basket, pick it out, a lottery?
Yeah.
Lottery.
I just wanted to get this started now. We're a long way from that, but it's just something to think on. Yes, sir?
Okay, Don?
Well, we already have facilities for lobstermen, or for the commercial side, on the commercial docks. And if you go around to these different communities, you're gonna find that there's generally a separation between the two. For the obvious reason that you're gonna find it very unappealing for a recreational owner to have a boat docked next to a lobster boat.
Yeah.
And the aroma issue.
Yeah.
And that's not segregating, that's merely saying that you've got a commercial section and you've got a recreational section. And that the two should probably not meet. There's plenty of slips over there now to take care of the number of lobster boats in the harbor that we have now. Which is a question that I had asked in the past is, why don't we use the recreational docks in the fall for the boats to tie up to and charge them for that, when they've actually got facilities for nothing that they can tie up to at the commercial.
Something we'll have to deal with in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we need to revisit too on that mooring application and for the commercial side is when they do choose to tie up on the rec pier in the off season and getting clear about that.
Yeah, I've looked at several different applications. Some have that extra $100 fee, some don't.
Yep.
So it all depends on where they got their application, I guess.
Yep.
And I've only found one person who's paid that $100. But in the applications that I had at the office, so.
I wonder if that could eventually be part of that online mooring thing. If online mooring works and you can rent slips through it.
You can rent transient slips and transient moorings through that system also. So that people can go online, they're visiting transient boats, they can go online and see that, and they can put in a request for your mooring, so it takes care of your mooring application also. Somebody has to monitor that, obviously, because if it's already rented, it wouldn't be available. Or someone has to accept it online so that the software knows that somebody's on that mooring. But all that would all be done internally within that program, so that you could have a commercial side as well as a recreational side.
Interesting. Cool, I think we're onto something. But I definitely think we should get that squared away for next season, however we do the application process.
I have a question for Dick. When you talked to the Commodore of the Yacht Club, did he have any interest in having the Yacht Club maybe fund their own slips? If there's 28 people, it sounds like they should pony up and put some slips in of their own, maybe. I'd like to have people who own boats in town that maybe aren't part of the Yacht Club have, say, if we have 14 slips starting off, if we could rent 7 to people who have boats in town that aren't part of the Yacht Club, which there are some, and maybe have 7 for transient, like Don was saying, you know, and run it for a while and see if those slips are being rented out, and if they're just sitting idle and not being rented out by transient boaters, maybe we could increase it to 10 instead of have 4 for transient. And, you know, I'm just.
Yeah, he did not say
What if
that they had any interest in doing that on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, it
But
sounds like,
all he said was
they want to
that
ride. It sounds like they
in
wanna
polling
ride
his
with that.
people, that he had, there was 28 people that had interest in slips,
Yeah.
so.
And they've got a lot of area over there, they could put some nice slips in, over on that side. That would take care of their yacht club folks, you know, pony up.
You're not gonna give the town any money.
Right. Right, see, that way it wouldn't be taking part of the town funded stuff, it would be all yacht club stuff, they could fund their own.
Right, but that doesn't give you any revenue for your,
Right, but it doesn't take up the.
doesn't take up that space.
Right, right. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, but I think you might have difficulty having them develop their slips. You'd also find difficulty from residents of the town who perhaps would be members of the yacht club and say that you're discriminating on that. However you do this, is probably going to be a lottery in order to decide.
Yeah,
And that would have to include yacht club members, obviously. At least you give preference perhaps to residents and then go to non-residents in order to do it with a legitimate passion, I would think.
It's gonna be hard if we only got 14 slips and yacht club wants double what we've got.
That's why you have a lottery.
You know,
Yeah,
Awesome.
yacht club
I
can
have
build their
to-
own,
Oh, it's just not bad.
just saying.
okay, so let's see, mooring permit and application process. Do you want to just research the online mooring thing some more and then, I don't know, be in touch, or do you
It sounds like
want
that online one will take care of everything. So yeah, I'll research that. I won't be back here for that meeting you guys just set up. I have another meeting that night on the
December 2nd?
December 2nd, yeah. So I won't
Okay,
be
that's,
available
yeah,
that
we'll start on the PO policies or something.
Yeah, but I'll definitely look into that, and it sounds like I'll look into it, get it going, whatever it takes.
Sounds
I think
good.
the sooner we get that process going and get familiar with it, the better it'll be when people start going on. I'll put Callie all over. Forget it.
So, yeah, and then, as far as the off-season tie-up for the commercial boaters, do you think that will be taken care of with that online mooring thing?
I'm sure there could be an option thing in there. Like I said, I don't know. I mean, what if we get 10 people to do it? 10 boats aren't gonna fit down there.
True.
So I don't know how that,
Utilize the commercial box first.
yeah.
I mean, that's the tie-up spot for them.
The number of boats that are tying up on the wreck pier can tie up on the commercial ones. I mean, so.
Thank you.
And then let them tie up for nothing.
I guess it's kind of one of those, either first come, first serve, or you make a decision, I guess. I don't know.
You know how many lobster boats there are in the harbor?
Like
At
six,
moorings?
aren't there 6?
Correct. How many slips are down on the commercial side.
At 6,
7 or 8,
7 or 8?
depending on how you fit them.
So, any talk about going up on the mooring fees? Because I know the last few that I've done, everybody's saying, man, you guys are cheap.
Yeah, I
Do you
would-
mean the mooring fees for the fishermen? Or for,
For the moorings.
For everybody.
The moorings, registered moorings. I mean, we're getting non-residents now coming here because Wisconsin's the cheapest place to put a mooring.
It's ridiculously cheap.
so who changes those fees? Can we change them and send them to the selectmen, or
Yeah,
is
we
it
can
a?
propose to the selectmen,
Right, you make recommendations.
make recommendation to the selectmen from us and Larry as a unit. This is what we'd like to change it to for a mooring permit. And then, I guess they said it, but
So
I
do,
mean, those things that you did, does it have mooring fees in it?
Does, yeah, you'll
So
see
there's
it
fees
kind
in
of
it
broken
that
down. So there's the last column on the right-hand side, it'll say, slip rentals and then mooring, and it's broken down by season, daily,
Okay.
weekly.
I'll research all that as well and try to come up with a figure.
okay, or we
But
can
I think
see
we
that
should.
too and be happy to make a recommendation, Don.
Just one thing to point out, when you look at the fee schedules that are on this chart that you did, I mean, I'm looking at one here, for example, season's $1,100 for mooring, but the person renting that doesn't own the mooring in that situation. They're renting a mooring that the facility owns. So make sure you designate what you're looking at.
Ah,
Okay, most of them, you'll find some fees as low as $25 to $30 for mooring permits. You'll find some as high as $75 to $100. But if you see something,
that's on the high
500,
side, because you're taking all the
$500,000,
chances, right?
Turn the page and move to the next one.
Yeah. Okay, good to know, thank you. Okay, so we can look at that and maybe come up with some sort of recommendation sometime soon.
The other thing we gotta figure out too is, for all the moorings that don't get registered, what are we gonna do with those? We gonna pull
yeah. Yeah, the ghost moorings,
Long overdue.
they've been paid in, say, 2 or 3 years. I mean, we've got that process on the books through the ordinances that we have to send a registered letter, 30 days,
them? All right.
and then the town garage will have them put on the yacht club side ramp. Town garage transports them to the old dump site, and then it's like a 30 or 45 day time period that they can contact the town or yourself, being harbor master, to pay up for their back rent that they haven't paid, or then the town.
I don't know how,
Or the town
I don't think the
owns more.
records, I don't think the records are gonna be good enough to know what they, who paid, who didn't pay, and,
Right.
I mean, there was just one mooring was just sold, and, I went back through the records we had, I think they go back to 2017, and I can't find where that mooring was ever paid in, the past 3
Wow.
years. So, but now it's been doing.
How does this happen in a town? With all these administration people, how does this happen?
I don't think anybody follows up on it, nobody
Right.
cares.
Yep.
And I think the mooring owners are like, nobody's gonna do nothing if I don't register, who cares? I mean,
Right,
one of them knocks on the door.
Out of sight, out of mind too, if it's just sitting on the
Right,
bottom.
exactly. I mean, if
Yeah.
they
So I
want to
think-
them more,
So I think this year, once we get the system up and going,
right,
it's gonna be kind of like an eye opener. And I think once we pull one more, and it's gonna send a message and people
oh,
are
there you go,
coming.
yeah.
But we'll give them notice that.
I was gonna say, do you have to do like a public notice or something?
No, I
No.
think out of courtesy, I think I will, I'll put something out saying, register your moorings. Any moorings not registered by a certain date
Right,
will be subject to getting pulled. And,
That should work.
because there is a process in the ordinances that you have to go by to claim their mooring if they don't pay.
Many of the mooring applications and the mooring procedures in other towns have a mooring due date. Let's say it's March 1st. So all moorings have to be paid by March 1st.
Right.
If they're not paid by April 15th, then the mooring owner has 2-week notice. And this is part of the statute, would have a 2-week notice at that point in order to pay up for their mooring, or it will be removed on May 1st.
Right.
And then, I mean, I've got some verbiage on that from the other towns that could be incorporated into that. But that way you've got succinct.
We need to put some backbone in this, because it hasn't been for so long, but we have no structure at all. You know, and Larry's willing to do it, so let's use it, you know? Plus he has enforcement capabilities, that's great, you know?
Well, which it is great. I would just think, you know, along with everything else, if you need some extra help, you know, doing something, ask. Just, that's the thing, is we're all busy, you know, and that's how things slide by. Time goes by, and here we are.
I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is just trying to figure out what we got for warrants out there, and I think
Yep.
Dawn's gonna be a big help with that.
Yep.
And especially if we do that online thing and get everything, you know, I just wanna know how many warrants are out there and who owns them. And then go.
And then
I
we
think
can
that
renumber
noticing
them.
is a great idea.
And then we can renumber them in a easy fashion, not
Yeah, or whatever works.
2297 BGQ or whatever. How about 1, 2, 3, 4, you know?
Well, some of the warrants have multiple numbers on them,
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
so it's hard to figure out.
Crossed out and,
It's down.
We gotta start over, we'll start over.
Yeah.
okay. Great. Okay, anything else for Larry, or? Any other questions or comments?
No?
Okay.
Move to
See
adjourn?
y'all on Tuesday?
Yeah.
All right, motion to adjourn,
So moved?
any second? No? Great.
All right.
That was easy. Emily, thank you so much for all the. Actually, I can't wait to meet her.
Thank you, Emily.
Sure, I'll see you on Tuesday.
Oh, thank you. There is
Seems
something.
to make more sense. I don't know that on track.
You want to
Then
Ted to come by?
Yeah, we'll have to buy that software.
Oh, yeah, well, you are, I'm not as what the cost of that.
Here.
but Dennis said you wanted all that stuff to
They
go
just said
to
this is
him.
$6
So I went to
fee
Ted
in
and
order
I
for
did.
the budget, for the application process every year. So
Like
if it was
two.
$60 now, we went to 75.
Dennis wants
And
to
there's
know
6
about
in
the
it.
cost of doing the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Remember we had.
Yeah, just gotta make sure it's.
We had the cost of running the
Yeah,
contract.
so that's, yeah, that's why you get the chip.
I've looked through all my
From what I
papers.
can tell anyways, but I'm talking.
So you have to do that
You're gonna
contract?
check? Yeah, you'd be best to do it.
So should we contact David
You
again,
want to hold a slack
or
on it?
John? His
Well,
son?
does it really
Who does
matter?
all plumbing
I
now?
think that's probably being too difficult, because it also has a swing.
Well, what?
Say-
Dennis
wants to put the bathrooms in this year's
The
budget.
things that ring will
Says I need
stand
some
out.
costs.
Main Street there?
For a swing yard.
Oh,
So, you know,
okay,
so
I think
we may have some-
sometime I can have,
When we go do that, we're not gonna know it's on the
Figures.
road yet.
yes.
And, remember that
no,
Chip Davidson, remember he did
Depending
the
on,
cost of
well, I guess
building,
that's probably something. we can-
lumber and stuff like that?
Done next summer in the project. So,
That's
or
okay.
set up,
Sorry, I forgot.
software should be done, no problem.
So
It'll
yeah,
add to
so
that.
Dennis wants to
one,
put
just like
the
Bill.
here bathrooms on the, this
Take on
year's
more than
budget.
you should.
He says, but I need some accurate costs.
Oh, yeah.
So-
No, and they designed 2,200 votes.
We had things from David Sawyer, we had things from Chip
Plus the
Davidson.
warriors and the dock space and everything else. You tell them how many dock spaces you've got, they go out to allocate that. That shows up on there too.
This is from David Sawyer.
Okay, that was 2018 though, so we might have to.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's just what I got online, but I'll be
That's
following
okay.
talking.
It's a start.
What's that?
Yes, I'll be very, very.
Online word.com.
Because they don't have a copy of it.
But I don't know if there's like
It's a little
electrical,
bit, you have to play around a little bit, don't you?
you know, that kind of stuff. I can ask Chip Davidson to do that.
Probably much better than I have.
They do all that stuff, right? Should
I
I just
missed the
call
first
them?
15 minutes, so I haven't.
Hammond lumber for what?
Okay, we wanna
I was putting lights
build
up.
a shed
Oh,
that would house
oh,
stalls.
Marion,
Oh.
Marion
Yeah,
did that.
exactly.
She got one,
I don't know where you
But
got
you
it,
had- oh,
or she
okay.
never shared it.
Mm.
Maybe I'll leave it anyway.
Oh, that's information.
okay,
Good.
what, this doesn't include any labor for either restaurant.
I
What,
waited till.
what,
But it's also not the
First
building,
week,
it's just all the plumbing,
couldn't get nobody.
right?
duplex pump system, 3x3 vessel, okay. Pump system. Oh, that's the pumping station.
The comment you.
Running up
were
a
making
pipe
about,
and,
Houses
and
have,
that stuff we haven't got.
Ray didn't do anything.
But we talked about it.
Yep.
He didn't.
Didn't say that right now.
No, he did, I was trying not to say it on tape.
Right.
Oh, we're still,
Yeah.
we're having a meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
But he didn't do anything to help that situation.
No. And,
Okay, now let's stop this.
that was my issue.
So let's go,
Well, he's ambitious. I think he's ambitious to do it. You know, he's been down to the